We'd like to welcome everyone back to the Trampled Underfoot Podcast with your hosts, Mark Lindsay and Eloy Escajedo. Welcome back, guys. How you doing?
Doing great. I'm just better than I deserve. It's just one of those things, man. I don't know if it's the new year or if it's the fact that things are actually going, for the most part, the way I kind of hope they would go. But it's kind of a new lease on life. It's a fresh beginning. And, I'm an optimistic glasses half full kind of guy anyway. So it's just, things are right with the world. How about you?
Well, I've seen better days. Let me see. Let me look for all the opposite of what you said.
Okay.
Things are all right. We're kicking. We're above the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we know any better either way, or that we would know,
right?
Which is something that I frequently ponder. We don't know. Wherever we're at is what we know, and if we don't know, we don't know. So, with that said, everything's pretty darn skippy.
Yeah, good. And I'm glad we have somebody here to keep me honest.
Well, that's not me.
Your time starts now. No, it doesn't. What happened?
You're eating away valuable.
No, I'm not eating away valuable time. What happened here? I gotta get set. And
that sound is the sound of a clock being wound, folks.
Yes, it is.
Because it also sounded like a ripper.
Uh-oh, don't tell me my timer busted.
It's all relative anyhow.
Yeah, time is relative.
It's all relative. Maybe that's a signal.
Well, come on, Mark. Let's go here. It's astounding. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. Now watch us get a copyright strike. Well,
could you imagine getting you know how many copyright strikes? Look, I'm wearing a Beatles shirt. So what if we had a Beatles copyright strike? Just for, and the Beatles bass back there. I got the Beatles. You see that bass? I got the Beatles bass hanging on the wall. Frickin' strike right there. And that the drum, the cymbal, which is not set up, that's a Ludwig set. Strike from the Ludwigs.
Well, no, you bought their stuff. So
I bought the Eagles CD as well, but that didn't. And I didn't use the music on it. I created my own, cost-free to everybody, but the rendition was fairly decent. And they said, well, no, it wasn't even monetized. So,
well, no timer this week. The timer is kaput, and I gotta reorganize here. So, what can I say?
We can count in our heads, and you know how good that works out.
Right. Or we could just look up at the little red square in the corner that our viewing audience can't see.
All right, we could do that.
What fun would that be?
We'll go with that.
Oh, no buzzer this week. So what can I say? It's just one of those weeks.
Well, how could you say that after you said the previous thing?
Well, you got to take the bad with the good. The thing is, the difference is, and it took me 50 years to figure out, knowing what I can control and what I can't control. I can't control that right now, so I don't even sweat it. It's out of my mind.
That's a pretty interesting statement that you mentioned on this evening, because I can't say a thing, because that's kind of what I had set up. So you literally, that phraseology, see, because there's an order to things, and the order was that you have something, and then I would have not addendums, but supplemental stuff from on my end. But by saying that and me confessing it and not keeping my mouth shut, it just drove us into. So I don't want to do it this way, but I guess we go with the stream, the flow, right?
We could do either or.
No, I just wanted to say that can you say that statement again?
Well, just the hard part for me, and like I said, it took me 50 years to figure it out, is knowing the things that I can control and the things that I can't.
Did you come up with that on your own, or did you?
Oh no, I've heard it several places in several different ways.
Don't search for it.
Oh no,
I want to know.
There is how's it go? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Is another version of it, But basically, if it's within my control, then do something about it. Mm-hmm. If it's not in my control, don't worry about it. Kind of like the guy that makes the guy that gets in front of you on the highway and does 45. It's not in my control. All I can do is wait until there's a clear spot and go around him.
So what is it? I can't drive 65.
Exactly. I mean, I may be upset a little bit. Oh, come on, dude. Seriously? Can you at least try that? Push all the pedals, and one of them's the gas. And, but it doesn't do any good to get all cheesed off or upset because, it's not like he planned his day out. Well, Mark should be leaving the house in about 5 minutes now. So let me go ahead and get out there in front of him so I can go real slow,
Mm-hmm.
It just happens, and it happens to everybody. So I just don't get upset about it.
Well, we do have a Western vantage point, and that implies a lot of things, but it doesn't mean necessarily that we're admitting other philosophies. And the reason I say that is that there's a place where that comes from.
Okay.
And it is Western society, but it's just not anywhere near our general vicinity or timeline. It's an actual Greek philosophy, which so the funny thing is that literally that phraseology was what I had literally set up, but I'm not going to open up that door. I just mentioned it to you because it's something else which I can conserve until later. I don't even know if it's going to fit whenever we end up where we end up. But the point is, or should I just release? Is this like holding back and not just?
Yeah, you're teasing it. You're teasing it, man. Go for it.
It's too much, right? Yeah. All right. So you had a topic, and the topic was. See, now I'm luring you in order to facilitate my thing. What was the topic, though?
Okay, I'll tell you what my topic was, and we can get into that, or we can go back and forth, or do whatever. Okay. I saw a post on Instagram by one of our friends. You know him very well, and quite a few people that are joining us here on the live chat here on YouTube. They know him as well. And he posted a video that was just abso-damn-lutely hilarious. And before I talk about that video or anything, it made me think of a subject that I don't think you and I have ever touched on. And
I doubt it.
It's called, the French have a phrase for it. We don't use it much over here, but it's violon d'angre, which translates roughly into Angra's violin.
I was gonna say I have no idea. I mean, I'm currently this year I'm 10% now, dropped from 17 to 10% French, but you're speaking Greek to me. But continue.
Okay. Well, basically, what it is, okay. Now this takes a little bit of setup, so please bear with me. There's a guy by the name of Jean-Auguste Ingres, who was a neoclassical painter. From about 1800 to about 1867 is when he was active.
Okay.
And he was considered to be, he was a very well-renowned painter. He did a lot of portraits and he did some nudes studies. And he painted one portrait of a nude woman, just a back shot. You could see nothing explicit. It was just her back. And I don't remember the name of the painting, but he, as good and highly regarded as he was in painting, he was also a virtuoso violinist.
Interesting.
And he was almost as popular for his musical talent and ability as he was for his painting. He was more renowned as a painter, and he played the violin just because he loved it. He wouldn't do concerts, he wouldn't do performances, but every time he picked one up, a crowd gathered around. And whenever he was in a public setting, he was basically begged to play. He was that good. So where all this is going is, a violon d'angre is a description of a person who is excellent at one thing, but has a totally different side and is excellent in something completely different that is actually a surprise to you and I. It would be something like, the closest thing that I can think of that folks would know would be like Robert Downey Jr., who's a good actor. He's a very good actor. But who knew he could sing as well as he could? The man's got a couple of albums out. He's got a killer voice. And I can take or leave some of his movies, but I'd pay to go see him. I'd pay to go watch him at a concert. It's just that kind of thing, that something comes from out of left field that you just wouldn't expect, that they're just as good at something else as they are as one on something else, you know?
Yeah. No, totally. That's an awesome thing. So people, go ahead.
So the one that got me, and this was the final straw, I guess you could say it, was our buddy Sterling Davis. Now, we already know he's a very good woodworker. He's good at what he does. But he posted a short video the other day. He is just in love with TikTok, and him and his wife have come up with a bunch of little videos to post over on TikTok. And I'm referencing his IKEA video. This guy is abso-damn-lutely hilarious. Now, he's a good guy. You and I have talked to him. We've spent many an hour in hangouts with him, BSing back and forth. I had no clue this guy was as funny as he is. And I'm not kidding you. If he was to focus on that, he could go somewhere. This guy is good. And what I'm going to do, I just a few minutes before we push the button here, I got him to change the visibility of this video that he posted on his Facebook page. He changed the visibility to public so I could share it. I'm going to share it on the Trampled Underfoot Podcast Facebook page, so you can go over and check it out. And just see if you agree with me. This guy is flippin' hilarious. His timing is brilliant. The subject matter is brilliant. He's not trying to be an actor, but he pulls it off. He does it. And I was just amazed at how actually funny this guy is. It's really worth a watch.
I gotta check that out. He also did a really good deviation from his videos, which shows the variation of what people are capable of in areas that. So he did like a documentary honoring an old bootlegger, maybe sometime mid last year or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was really well done. But it was documentary setting and half, like the woodworking, but document. It was like a its own thing. And so you see the dynamics of people. So like, we have a lot of friends that have various talents,
right?
That things diverge into different categories, and people, if they're lucky, they have different disciplines that pop up that are amazing,
right?
Right. I could think of a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, there are several people that I can think of that for one reason, but then you find out they have this whole other side, and it's just like, holy cow, man! Who knew you were that good? Why aren't you doing that? And that's because I like to do this, and if I start trying to make a living at it, it becomes work, and I don't want it to become work.
Yeah.
I'm that way with a few things, but I've never excelled. I've never gotten up to the degree that I think some people have hit, to where they really should consider doing that for a living, because I mean, the sky's the limit. And I mean, you're talking about the documentary style that Sterling did. I do remember that video that you're talking about, and it was fantastic. The guy, he has a talent for that kind of thing. And I don't know, I'm thinking maybe woodworking videos isn't his genre, and he might want to think about doing something else. I mean, it's competitive, and you have guys like Nick Offerman, who is an excellent actor himself, but his big thing is he's a huge passionate woodworker.
Yeah.
And so much so that he used his money from his acting career to build his dream shop, and that's where he spends every waking moment that he can, is out in his shop doing his thing. And the acting was just a way to get there.
Yeah.
And he's at the point in his career to where he doesn't care if he ever does another job. He's happy to spend his whole day out in the shop. And he can do it. So I didn't think we'd ever touched on that kind of subject before. I mean, can you think of any other examples that just kind of came out from out in left field?
I mean, I guess I could, but nothing is
Nothing is coming. Well, you have guys like Steve Martin, the comedian, who is also a very accomplished banjo player and a very accomplished artist. That guy can paint. He can paint. He just doesn't do it. He just doesn't show off his work very often. But he has gotten away from the comedy and is now into bluegrass music. And he has put together a band that is just, I mean, absolutely stellar. But it's not something you would think of when you think of Steve Martin.
I mean, I've seen that. Mm-hmm. So I know, but I'm not to be honest with you, it's not like I'm surprised with multi talents and stuff. There's such a slew of, and there's also the undiscovered country, that people have so much potential. And we truly, or I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but
sure,
I'll just say in my situation, the potential that was given to me as a gift from the Creator. My words, this is mine.
Okay.
Have not been by any stretch of the imagination, indeed, mind.
Yeah.
Let's say. So, and I think there's undiscovered country. And within us, many potentials, and I have learned lessons to that point, because when I was very young, I had no walls to deny me entry of my own making,
right?
Because I didn't have any type of thing to look at and say, oh, you can't do this, can't do that. So I decided I wanted to play guitar. I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was. I don't even know if at the time I was listening to the Beatles, although the Beatles totally flipped everything upside down for me. But my dad said, okay, let's go get you a guitar. And I didn't know anything. I had a little Mel Brooks thing, which I tried to play. Mary had, but I didn't like that. And I said, no, this is a weird thing. It probably helped and also didn't help, but I said, I'm going to do this my way. And one can get fooled in thinking that there's like, you don't want to say that in like a rocket launching facility. No. I don't need the training. I'll go ahead and man the control. No, but in this thing, I just picked it up and like brute savage force of again and again and again
Mhm.
doing the same thing and saying no, that doesn't work, and doing the and my fingers and this and that and it became a thing where I can play the guitar. And then I wanted to write songs, of which one does not know how to do at that stage. I mean, I'm sure that there's plenty of people that do, but all you're doing is learning what this thing that's made out of wood and the strings, and it feels awkward and stuff until little by little, because of stubbornness, not knowing
Mhm.
when to quit, it became a part of my memory,
Mhm.
and I pick it up and I know things and I could do, and then oh, but now let's write, and we start writing song, and then you start looking at people how they write song, and then you start, and I did it basically on my own with the help of books and such, and
Sure.
but so that wasn't a potential, and I realized that oh, if you repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, you gain knowledge and experience and memory.
Right.
But I'm thinking, what other fields could I possibly have ability for that I have not tapped into? And
Well,
the same I would assume for people all around the world.
one never knows. One really, really never knows. But it's when you find someone who is so multi-talented that they don't even talk about the other thing, really. That they focus on this one thing. They focus on the acting, they focus on the acting, and then you discover, oh wait, this dude is an excellent guitarist too. Johnny Depp being one, Keanu Reeves being another. But now Keanu Reeves did take a break from acting and go off with a band and tour a little bit, but then he came back to acting again. But finding someone who is at a virtuoso level in both of these things that you, and one of them you had absolutely no idea about, to me that's just kind of a fascinating thing. I mean, I know John Lennon could paint. He didn't do it very often. He did it every so often.
And it's an opinion, but and he didn't do it very well either.
Well, art is subjective,
Right.
It's the old classic. I may not know much about art, but I know what I like.
Right.
There aren't a whole heck of a lot of Jackson Pollock's paintings that I like, but
No, but
look
if
at the
that's
prices they go for.
if that's the standard, because painting is again, like you said, it's just like music and music taste.
Yes.
It's like so there is.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'll read you if you don't mind. I'll read you a quote from. This is not the one that you started off with.
Okay.
Actually, go on a little bit. Let me look for, because there's a few of them here.
Oh, you're looking for a direct quote? That's okay.
I have my list.
Oh, okay. We're taking a research break here on the Trampled Underfoot podcast.
Wait a second. What was it exactly that you said that triggered me to think?
It was something to do with John Lennon painting. And but see, when you have somebody with an artistic streak like that, who is a singer, a songwriter, a guitarist, those go together. It's when you start adding in something that's totally different from that. You wouldn't think painting or sculpture. You wouldn't associate that with music. Whereas if you look at somebody like Paul McCartney, who is a singer, a songwriter, a musician, those go together. And you could see where one skill would lead to another. You could see where somebody would start off in woodworking, making picture frames and cutting boards, and then work their way up to hand cut dovetails, and then eventually leading into carving by hand. I mean, we both know Dan Harju. He does all of that stuff. That guy is flipping amazing in some of the stuff he does.
We have people like Daniel Harju within arm's reach, not literally, but in our circle, let's say, that have these abilities, and Harju is one example what he does. And how does he react to it. He's not.
He's like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's just like, dude, are you kidding me? What you just whipped out in 15 minutes would have taken me 6 years, and then I'd have had to have somebody else do it. Come on.
But it's a good. But see, that's one thing. And by the way, I had a lot of quotes and stuff, so I thought this was gonna go in a certain way, and then I would read off the quotes. But you've been actually speaking the quotes, which is pretty freaking cool because it's so like within the sphere of what I couldn't believe it. I was gonna say it's a good thing that people, like, let's say Harju, let's say I mean, it's an exact example, but I don't want to like embarrass people and stuff. But like, let's say so he doesn't do the whole, oh man, I'm freaking, look how cool this turned. I'm the best, guys, and this and that. And the problem with that is that people that do that, it's as if no one can, but the person that has these talents is always striving and striving and striving, and we look at their creations and we're like, holy smokes, but yet here comes the next thing and the next thing. They're never, and that patting on the back can weaken,
right?
Because you don't want to. There's something to be said about humility as well, and not for the fact of saying, not because it's not a nice thing to say to these people, ha ha ha, ho ho ho, but because it kind of lowers one's outward ability, to expand from, to grow. I don't know that
he does a very good job at what he does, but I don't want to deal with the ego type of a thing. I do get that.
Something like that, yeah.
Because Dan's attitude is, oh yeah, I can do that. And then he does it. And then he'll show it to you. Okay, yeah, there we go. And then, set it down, and then he's off to the next thing. So if a client or customer wants something done a certain way, they want fluting done here and some reed detail over here, he can do it and he'll do it. But that's not the emphasis of his business. That's not his focus. His focus is restoring antiques and making reproductions on commission. And he knows he has to be good at certain disciplines in order to do that. And creating a flute here and a beading detail over there is a part of it.
I think he plays guitar as well. He plays music as well.
Yeah, and Dan, nobody likes a smart ass, okay? So, leave something for the rest of us. So, so you can do too much. You can be too perfect. So.
Jim says, I can both procrastinate and nap, sometimes simultaneously.
Yeah, well, I
see, but that's a perfect example of two things that could be on the same line as far as the same definition. You could derive the same sort of definition, or opposite, because I mean, if you take a nap, you're also re-energizing yourself. Now, that's contrary to Western, ideas, but
I don't think so.
Well, no, because it's not. You're right, but I'm saying the thing to say is, now, Jim, like, here's the thing to say is, yes, no procrastinating, no naps, no procrastinating. Let's get her done. Let's go to and true, because if not, who's gonna do it? But if you're totally burnt out, the nap is not procrastinating, it's re-energizing. So
exactly.
So
yeah, exactly. I'm in 100% agreement with you there.
I'm totally down with that strange philosophy Jim just threw at us right there.
I don't see it as I don't see it as being not Western.
So. Well, we so No, because Western has everything in it. What I mean by that is not that Western doesn't have naps. What I mean by that is that the trajectory is usually work it, work it, work it, work it. You know?
Yeah. The corporate 8 to 5 world. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna shut these overhead lights because they're yeah, they're flickering.
Yep, you got the disco lights going.
Yeah, the problem is that I've got a LED bulb, but my switch doesn't work for LED. So yeah.
So you have to. So you either need to change out the bulbs or change out the switch. One.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually a very good point. Now I have to go back and think of, we got way off track here. Now I have to think of, did I buy switches that are compatible with LED lights? Because that's what I got is LED shop lights. They should be. We'll see. We'll find out. Okay. So that was the topic that I brought to the table. I
love it.
I don't know what you got to add, but we did a half hour on mine.
No, I love how the LED thing is such a random thing. You would think, but it speaks to your particular scenario currently, where you got to make sure that your switches are going to be applicable to your, to your LEDs, because you're trying to do an energy saving situation, aren't we all?
Sure. Sure.
So look, I'll throw my so when you told me people with dual talents, or multi talents, I said okay, so I'll pull something up that works for me, since it's applicable. I've got something that I've been watching recently, and that has to do with gotta say it, the whole Roman world and into the European continent, and up into and controlling it. And there was this emperor called Marcus Aurelius.
Okay.
And he was an emperor, and he did a good stint with plenty of peace in Rome and throughout Europe, where things were good, and then things went crappy, and there was plagues and all sorts of bad stuff. But he's thought of as a good emperor, and one of the 5 top emperors, let's say. And so he was also a student of philosophy.
Okay.
And he was a Stoic philosopher. And that philosophy occurred in Greece. And the philosophy, I'll tell you this, what happened was, number one, everything you were saying is Stoic philosophy, literally, like word for word.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So It tells me a few things. It tells me a few things, that this philosophy it's been around before we were ever born, but it's permeated our society, where it's become such a norm, these concepts, that they won that battle with their philosophy, because people take it as things that they accept in order to live life better, freer of tragedies, or holding on to certain unwinnable battles and so on.
Yeah, and just overall stress.
Well, yeah, there's a whole. I mean, everything you said was like literally what I was going to say. And so the thing is that Marcus Aurelius, he wrote and left annals. I forget the actual, but he left annals, and he never talked about his current scenario of what was happening in Rome at the time. He only spoke of his philosophy. That's what he left. I mean, they wrote about him. I mean, there's a lot but he himself wrote these annals. And poetries and sayings and such, and his lessons, and all that. And it matched with what you said in the beginning, which was pretty trippy. I'll mention a few. These are just random.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'll just mention a few.
Okay.
Uh, so here's one. Here is a rule to remember in the future. When anything attempts, it says, when anything tempts you to feel bitter, uh, not this misfortune, but to bear, oh, goodness sakes, to bear this worthiness is good. Oh, you know what? Let's skip that first one. Cut the heck he was talking about. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good, he says. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?
Yeah, that first one that you talked about was don't prepare for 10,000 years.
Yeah,
That death hangs above you and
yeah,
constant. Um, yeah, I mean, we talked about this behind the scenes. I mean, Linda and I have been going through and doing a little bit of reorganization here, in that we have finally figured out that we have spent our life collecting a bunch of stuff that one of these days our kids are going to have to go through, and probably a good portion of it is going to get thrown away. So rather than do that, I mean, obviously we have things of sentimental value that we want to pass on to them. Let's go ahead and pass them on to them now. When they can enjoy them, we can enjoy them. And the rest of it, we can chuck ourselves, you know?
and it's not in your house.
Yeah, well, it's not in the house, and it's not in storage. We're not paying to store it. You
Yeah,
know, when you think about the concept of, we have developed, this is how poor we are. We have created an industry centered on storing the crap we don't have room for.
I know.
And when I say crap, don't think that I'm insulting anybody, because we all know crap is an acronym. CRAP stands for collectibles, rare and precious.
Yeah,
So it's not an insult, but we have so much of it that we have to rent another building on the outskirts of town and go there and put it in there and lock it up so that nobody else takes it. And then probably never go back to it and just keep putting more stuff in there, that eventually one of these days somebody is going to have to go through and probably throw 2/3 of it away.
yeah.
So, you know, the new age phrase for this is downsizing. Well, we're not so much downsizing as we are thinning the junk pile and deciding what's really important and what really isn't, you know.
I mean, because, at the end of the day, we are sort of like, so we're like little astronaut. This is a bad analogy, but I'll say it. We're like little astronauts in a capsule,
Mm-hmm.
and we're traveling through the experience of life. And as we collect, oh, this is a little meteor.
Sure.
Oh, this is here. Let's attach it to the back. Let's attach it to the to the back of the. And we keep adding and adding, because these are things that we might need, we don't need, and we're just trying to survive. And we're collecting things and this and that, and it gets to a point where, it's overwhelming, and you don't even look for the things like you were saying. But there's a thing called time, and you have a thing for a certain purpose. You're not going to need it, but at some point in the future, near or far, that you have to go back to it to finish. Like, for instance, this album here, I'll show you right here for the video audience. I've got to go through all these photos.
Right.
I know you don't do away with, these are precious things, but the point is, here's something that's here in my way. That's one example of thousands of things. I need them. Not now. I don't need them now, but if I get rid of them, I'll never be able to get them again.
Right. And that's completely understandable. And there are some things that you are going to keep hold of for sentimental reasons. And there are some things that we have here that I want to share with my kids and my grandkids. And if they want them, they are welcome to them. But a lot of things, I'm discovering old photographs, and on that subject, I've got pictures of people that I've never met. I don't know who they are. I don't want that to happen to my kids. So I'm trying to organize a lot of that. you know, and while they were of value back then and precious back then to the people who knew these folks, I don't know them. I've never met them. They died long before I was born. They're not direct blood relatives. They're friends of my grandparents, or they're obscure cousins or aunts or uncles that I have no recollection of. So putting them in my family tree and scanning photos in and keeping that stored online, that's fine. If it's of historical significance, I'll donate them to the genealogy library and the historical society.
Yeah, that's
and
what I was
let them be the conservators of them, because they're going to get ruined here.
Yeah. You know? See, there's a lot of things like that that disappear and never see the light of day, and it's valuable information. Just in the bigger picture of things, we as a society had the libraries at Alexandria, and it contained information like nobody's business, and they burned. Rome burned, they burned, and we don't know what we're missing because it's no longer with us. We do have ancient documents that came to us down through history in all parts of the world, and thank goodness they're there. If it wasn't for one stubborn person passing it on to another stubborn person, to another stubborn person down the line, that maybe not valuable thing at that point became something that is part of our patriarchy, our history, our everything. And so that's on a big level. But on a family level, like you're saying, right now, currently, there's a group of genealogists in Cantabria, which is the north of Spain. It's autonomous community that are trying. And by the way, they're people like my great uncle, or is it grand uncle?
It's great uncle.
Great uncle. He did that for a living. Back in the 1800s, turn of the century, that's what he did. But even he would say in his writings that if you saw the condition of because he'd go to houses, little, like made out of rocks. Well, actually, there were some of them were forts and stuff, but like out in the middle of nowhere. And he'd ask the people, could he see their family history, works, and he'd look through them and stuff. And many of them were sitting in the corner, water dripping. And these are, for the people living at the time, they're just trying to live their lives. But these volumes and books and papers and pages represented the history going back into antiquity of the people in the North. And he would say, and he wrote, he said, in a future time, he said specifically, I don't remember right now, all these volumes, it is a sad affair that we can't conserve our history. People throw them in the corner, they're collecting moss, this and that. And these things, it's our heritage. And it's because it's all in private hands. And so people today, there's a whole genealogy working because there was fires, destruction. They're working to salvage all they can so that people know their lineages and their history. And I literally fall within that group of people to a T through my paternal line. That's the group of people that I fall paternally. So I'm a part of that. It feels good to be a part of that. And I've done my own work here in America, and I pass it over to them to see what they think, and this and that, and they pass. So it's a beautiful thing. So I believe it's very important to conserve these things. But that's stuff you want to conserve.
Sure.
But maybe like junk sitting in the corner of the house.
And that's what I'm talking about. We will bring a box home from storage and we'll go through it. And it's just like, okay, I've got this receipt for a phone bill in Germany in 1989. I think we can get rid of this. Yeah, let's get rid of that. That kind of thing. I have the fabric, the Naga hide and the velour. to do the upholstery in a car that I sold 10 years ago. What are my kids going to do with that? It's time to put it up on Craigslist and get rid of it. You know, I'm not going to do anything with it. The car's gone. I should have that should have gone with the car, you know, and it just didn't. I've got all kinds of collectibles, rare and precious, like that. You know, we got to get rid of some of this stuff. And it was that whole entire line of thinking of don't prepare for a 10,000 year life.
Yeah.
From Marcus Aurelius that made me flash on that. Go ahead with some more quotes. This is fun. I like this direct association.
Let's see. Let's see. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking.
Weren't we just talking about that more or less?
Yeah.
You know, every one of us is a collector. We've got our little collections of stuff. You know what? This just made me think on this. I remember my grandparents on my mom's side, they had a camper, a little aristocrat camper on the back of their truck. And they had a little outline of the United States on the back door of this camper. And every time they visited another state, and this was a thing back in the 60s and in the 70s. It may still be, I don't know. But every time they visited another state, they got a sticker in the shape of that state, and they put it on that map to keep track of all the states that they've been to. And now my adult mind is saying, who was that for? Does the guy behind you on the interstate really care where you've been or where you're going?
Yeah.
Is that for you, or is that for somebody else? What is the whole purpose of that? I get it. It's a fun little thing, you know.
It could be for them. It could, you know, because the thing is, you know, you see that though, right?
I do. I get it. It definitely was for them.
It's like a notch on the belt saying, "Aha, we did this one."
It is, and it's one of those things where exactly right. It's a notch on the pistol grip. You know, it really is.
By the way, if you too many of those notches on the belt, it'll make your belt come apart. So one's got to be careful with that as well.
Yeah, well, that's where filigree work came in, you know, and the webbed belts. Yeah, it definitely was for them, but we, as people, have this penchant. We want to share our collections with everybody else, and if you can put it on the back of your car or your camper in this case, and share it with everybody, well, yeah, by God, let's go ahead and do that. So, you know, and our buddy Jim Dockrell is out here in the chat, the live chat on YouTube, and he's talking about, see, I could never buy a house like he bought. He bought, well, technically it's an old church, and it's been converted into a home.
Did he say, I'm sorry for, I'll just throw this out there and then later we'll figure it out. Did he say it's as old as going back to did I read it right sometime? 1600s? It can't be.
I don't think he said that. No.
He said the steeple is from the something, and because 1600, that doesn't sound right. I guess he'll tell us later.
I don't think he did, but I don't remember hearing that part. Maybe I just didn't. Maybe I missed it.
No, maybe I misread, you know.
But I think he said the whole thing was 7,000 square foot. And I could never buy a place that big because I know me. I would try to fill it. I would decide that this wall needs 14 things on it. And I would decide that this piece of furniture is perfect for that. And I'd have crap scattered all over the place.
Yeah, but let's be realistic.
For no rhyme or reason. I know me.
Let's be realistic though. At the same time, the flip side of this that you're saying, isn't it also true? Imagine yourself in a space with nothing in there. It's just not natural either.
No, that's true. So what I do to prevent myself, and I say this like I could afford to buy something that big, right? But even if I could, I probably wouldn't, because I know me. I know how I am. I would see a big open room and decide, yeah, I can get a pool table in here. I haven't played pool in 40 years. What do I want with a pool table? But because I could put one there, I would. And then if you got a pool table, you have to have a bar. I don't drink. Why would I need a bar? And if you've got a bar and a pool table, there has to be a jukebox. You know? So you see where the mind goes. It just never ends. And that would be me. And I can't do that. So
Well, talking about so it was built in 1961. Jim says. I don't know. His birth was. Harneel Media says his birth was in the 1600s. I don't know if that's a joke on Jim or what's going on there.
that's a joke on Jim. Well, you know, it's just, I mean, God bless you for doing it. God love you for doing it, Jim. And I wish you nothing but the best, but it's more than I would want to take on at this point. I'm having enough trouble with a 12 by 16 shed. I can't not imagine something that big because I know me, I would fill it.
It's also at the same time a life adventure, because that's something that how many people can say, hey, we bought, renovated a church and live at the church. Oh, and by the way, it became a bed and breakfast. I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, it has that going. And, you know, he's next to that lake.
Well, yeah, this is true.
Last time I said he's up by that lake. Everybody in Canada, that's an outrage. You know, it's like, you know, that lake up there. But you have to understand, I'm in Florida, and I didn't quite have the map. You know, but I said it like that, and something similar.
Kidding me?
Well, yeah, but you know, so the reaction, although it was quite polite, but it was corrected, and it should. You know what I'm saying? But when I did a video, and I said, you know, it was all about the DNA, and I said, oh, in Spain this, and France that, and this, and then I said Portugal. The comment section ripped me. That's not how you say this and that. And I didn't necessarily attack back because, you know, whatever, you know, but you're not supposed to call Spain Spain either. It's España. You know, so it's like, give me a break. I'm telling you, I'm here in Miami. I speak the way I speak, and I'm not doing it in an insulting fashion. But people don't, you know, they just red flag. Everybody, come on, charge! Yep.
I got the pitchforks. You go get the torches.
Yeah. You know, and I'm not attributing that to when I said the thing, but I'm just saying, like, there's extremes on all sides of.
Oh, sure. You're going to find that everywhere you go, but especially online.
Come on, folks, let's get. What did he do? He picked the pickle out of the wrong jar. Kill him! You know, so it's like, so here's another quote. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present.
Ooh, that's deep. That's extremely deep. I mean, you do have to try to plan ahead, especially in these times, because we have so many things that we have to project out to the future. I mean, so you do have to plan ahead to a certain point. But yeah, Semper Gumby, always flexible. I mean, you got to be, because again, so many things are out of your control. You know, just the weather. I mean, you can't really go out and have a picnic while it's raining. I mean, sure you can, but do you really want to? I mean,
it would make for a great memory, though.
Oh, it would make for a great memory. Like, I'll never do that again. But, you know, I don't even have to go outside and get wet. I stubbed my toe the other day, and I think I broke my little toe again, the same little toe.
You're kidding.
I think I broke. No, I'm serious. I think I broke it again. Well, that was an adventure in itself. I hopped around on one foot, invented my own language, and just, you know, but I didn't get wet in the process. So you can have an adventure. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean the if you're out for the idea of doing something that's out of your normal cycle completely,
Uh-huh.
outside of your comfort zone or even imagination, to me, I think that there's a possible positive to doing that. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying, hey, I wake up in the morning, let's go jump out of an airplane or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
However, some people are that bold.
sure.
Uh, by no means, but so
Yeah.
all these strange little shifts in what we do, I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. But crap, I was gonna say something, and I said something that I didn't want to say as much. Um,
Well, you just threw out an idea here about to talk about, getting up in the morning and going out and jumping out of an airplane or stuff like that.
okay,
I
I
mean,
remember. Just remind me
okay,
that
go
I
ahead.
remember. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go
No,
ahead.
do it.
Okay, so the idea of stoicism is that, like you were saying, so you do have to plan ahead and this and that. It's also that to basically what is outside of your powers, you focus on the things that you can control and
Right.
work at, and the worry and the things that are beyond that limit, which was the first comment that you made. You made the key comment in the beginning of the show. Those things that you can't control, there's no, you have no control, so it's not up to you.
Right.
And so worrying about it, um, pondering it is futile
Well,
for their philosophy. They focus
mhm.
only on the things that they are able to do and control, advance. So you do plan, you can do all these things, but the idea is once you've gone into the domain of, sweating over it, you've lost the ball.
Well, there has to be a balance in there because there are things that you can't control, and that's true. But you do have to be aware of those things sometimes. Like you can't control the weather, but you do need to be aware of it. The time to go out and put up a new uh, ham antenna is not the middle of a thunderstorm, you
Right.
know? So you do have to be aware of the things that you can't control. You can't control the wild animal coming down the trail as you're hiking up the trail, but you got to be aware of your surroundings and you've got to take steps to be able to protect yourself. So be mindful of the things you can't control, but focus on the things that you can control. And there's got to be a balance in there somewhere. Is all I'm getting at. So, but the small stuff, I'm not a confrontational guy. I'm just I just don't see getting myself all worked up over something that's out of my control. It does me absolutely zero good to get all cheesed off at the guy doing 45 in the left lane on the freeway. Just wait till there's a clear point, get around him, and then it's behind me. It's no longer my concern.
But that's Mark
Right.
2021.
Right. Now, Mark 2008, 9, and 10 would have been screaming through the steering wheel at him. You bet. You bet.
Right. And so it it's basically no one of the things that's we all have to learn these things or not. Either at some point sooner or later, you learn lessons in order to facilitate your, you know, movement through life.
Yeah.
In other words, easing the level of pain to pleasure and stability ratios. You want to get those, at least I do,
Right.
as low on the pain threshold but not everybody's wired like that. There's people that
And
take great risks because of an adrenaline thing.
yeah, and there's a lot of people who never learn that lesson. I mean, we hear about it, especially during the holidays around Thanksgiving and Christmas and what have you, that, well, nobody deserves to be alone for the holidays. Well, I think we all know people who do deserve to be alone for the holidays because they're just unpleasant to be around. All they want to do is argue, fight, pick fights, and start drama. Well, you don't deserve to be around that. So, yeah, maybe they do deserve to be alone for the holidays. There are some people in this world who just have more or less made it their mission to end up lonely and bitter. And that's because of the way they treated everybody around them in life, And I just don't want to be that guy. Not anymore.
I mean, we're the ones that are captaining the ship.
Yeah.
We're whatever you call it, the ship.
Yeah. Well, we try anyway.
Our own vessel through, and it is what it is, and we make our decisions. And I've always known that, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I've always known. It seems such an obvious thing to me, but then again, so many other things that should be obvious weren't obvious to me. It's a funny thing how that works.
Well, but see, I think that's instilled in us from the time we're very, very young. Maybe we don't remember it, but that's how our parents raised us, and that's how our parents shaped us. And some of us, I mean, we all go through a rebellious stage where we think we know more than our parents do, and they don't know what they're talking about. They're not living my life. They're old school. They didn't even have this, that, or the other. They didn't even have microwaves and push button phones when they were growing up. So how could they possibly know? Well, I just carried that rebelliousness and knowing everything and doing it my way well into my 50s. And it took me a while to get out of that and discover, you know what? You don't know everything. And there are people who do know more than you. So shut up and listen. And I've been a happier person ever since. Now, you started off on something. Well, you started on something that made me think of something else that I'm going to do us all a favor and save it for next week.
Because I was going to say that I made you think of something that made you think of something that made me think of something that probably would make you think of something. And that's a dangerous thing, dude.
Especially at our end.
There is a lot to all of this, but there's a lot to say about all this. I think that the stoicism, and you mentioning that thing, I think it was a perfect, sort of like occurrence, because I literally was looking at that. The last part is something that we did not touch on, but I just want to drop it in there because I think it slides in, and I'm probably going to forget later. There's another philosophy, which I forget the name. I think it's Taoism or something like that.
Okay.
And don't quote me. For all that's sacred, don't quote me. But that philosophy, which is Chinese, and it's ancients, they have a different take on things, and you have competing philosophies. And these people in China with that particular philosophy has the idea that they had, and well, there's people that still, follow that. They have the idea that, there's no use in trying. Don't try to be like the water. Always
go with the flow. Yeah.
Always. There's no need to this and that. Like, don't get out of your skin to do the. So it's more of a retracted, laid back sort of situation, but it's not an engaged situation. Whereas Stoicism has you engaged in the now, in what you can, and don't worry about what you can. But there's competing messages, and so I just, last thing I wanted to say is that I think that there's valuable knowledge that all these groups have handed down, and maybe a little bit of this, a little bit of that is probably the recipe for one person to the other people. But I don't know that there'll ever be a consensus on anything.
Oh, no, there never will, because there is always going to be somebody smarter than you. There is always going to be somebody that's not as smart as you. There's always going to be somebody taller, somebody shorter, somebody heavier, somebody thinner. People are people. People are different. And we all have our own personalities, and we all have free will. And life is like a buffet. We're going to pick and choose from it what we want and leave the rest for somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's an endless buffet. So just because you chose to play guitar doesn't mean that nobody else in the world can play guitar. So that supply is endless. And you choose your interest, and you choose what talents you want to develop over the years. And
the competition aspect that you just said is also a very human thing, but from our Western vantage point, it's a very Western vantage point thing too. That competition, that particular of like, I'm a guitarist, I'm going to kick your guitarist butt because I'm going to be a better kid. But there's a there's a point when it's right and when it's wrong. Well, go ahead.
And it's a great motivator, because it only serves competition between you and another guitarist, only makes you better and that other guitarist work to be better. You know that buying a more expensive guitar does not make you a better guitarist. The only thing that's going to make you better is 10,000 more hours.
I'm only concerned with that that I'm gonna be better than you when it becomes a vicious, nasty thing where by any means, not by honor, but by any means necessary, low, punches below that kind of. So within honor and dignity,
sure,
totally, but other. That more,
but that's not competition.
Well, they're just using
that's cheating. If they sabotage your guitar so that you can't be as good as you are, that's cheating. That's not competition.
No, that's not competition. But sometimes we don't have a judge on the scene in the now.
Well, then
to be able to you know what I'm saying. So yes, I agree with you. As long as the honor factor, exists.
All things being equal, you are going to be better than some, and you're not going to be as good as others, and that's all there is to it. That's just life. Nobody is perfect, and nobody can be perfect, because perfection itself is an abstract thought.
But the attainment of perfect isn't even in my. I never, in anything, I'm never thinking perfect ever.
You can't.
But I'm saying, but the idea of, are there people possibly out there that think that? Because to me, and maybe they can, I don't know, because what I think is probably more than likely very limited to my capability, and I cannot imagine the strides other people can make. I mean, there's people that are astrophysicists. So
sure.
The idea of perfect, I'm going to be the perfect guitarist, out of the question. The perfect painter, out of the question. The perfect genealogy research investor, out of the question. The perfect mechanic, out of the question. Out of the question. And I don't feel one little bit bad about it.
And you shouldn't, because all you can do is strive to be the best you can be, and you just strive for excellence, and do the absolute best job you can with what you have, and try to improve that knowledge and those skills and those tools.
Yeah, that's how I look at
it. And your ability with those tools.
And I've always looked at it that way. Because there's something realistically you have to, as a human being, you have to know there's no way. There's always going to be, like you said, someone that's going to be a better volleyball player than you, a better whatever. But once you reach that,
but that's okay,
and that's okay. But it shouldn't even be the interest. Should be your journey in the discovery of what you're capable of.
Yeah. Now, striving to continually get better, I see it as a good thing, because it does make you better. and it makes you more aware of your surroundings and your competition. So, but
Last thing.
okay.
I want to recommend to you what I think is the most striking, well produced, well written, well acted, well filmed series. One of the, for sure, the best this year, or at least the top 2 or 3. And in history of like series, it is brilliant. It's called Queen's Gambit. It's the story of a orphaned girl that learns how to play chess in her orphanage, and it's such an epic travel from her origins, her what happens to her, and where she goes, and the way they do it. It's brilliant. It's based on chess, but it's actually based on the life of a lady, and you really get into her role because her weaknesses, human doubts, they're all out there. It's such an amazing. So it's not a shoot 'em up. It's none of that. But and it occurs throughout the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
So the ambiance is those pretty killer, eras. So yeah, I just wanted to say that Queen's Gambit.
Okay. I'll look into it. So before we land the plane, we are going to hang around and chat with the folks over here in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. I wanted to implant that in our brain so we didn't hit the button too soon. Our collective brain. Greg Snow Crusher gave us the buzzer about 8 minutes ago, but I went ahead and I let it. We kind of went on a little bit because we spent a little bit of time with me tinkering around with the buzzer and a few other things that are going to get edited out. So that's cool.
Actually, it was like a half an hour ago.
But we should go ahead and do our about 15 minutes ago. We should go ahead and do our wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So listen, guys, we are sponsored by Harneal Media, and that's harnealmedia.com. If you guys out there listening to this need a website for your products or for whatever your talents out there, or you want to put it out there, share it with friends, families, or you're doing a business, maybe you want to sell mugs, exclusively mugs, or you want to do shirts and so on, Steve Nealon over at harnealmedia.com can help you out. It's a personalized service and great pricing as well. So be sure to check that out. He's got a long list of people that he does that service for, a lot of people on YouTube, and you can see that list yourselves by visiting harnealmedia.com.
We also has our own website. Speaking of,
I'm sorry, did I?
No, that's cool. You talking about sponsorship, we should mention what he sponsors. And that would be trampledunderfootpodcast.com. That's our website.
Yeah.
Now, we can't hook you up with merch or anything like Steve over at Harneal Media can, but we can hook you up with past episodes of this podcast. If you're just discovering us, welcome aboard. We have a lot of shows in our background. This is episode 125. So as you can well imagine, we have 124 other episodes that are just waiting for you to explore over at trampledunderfootpodcast.com. Click on that link that says Wayback Machine, and you'll find all of our episodes all the way back to episode number 1. That's trampledunderfootpodcast.com, sponsored by Steve Nealon over at Harneal Media. We also have a Facebook page. And I'm going to go ahead and post a link to Sterling's video that started this entire line of thought over on the Trampled Underfoot Podcast Facebook page. So it's a short video. It's, 15, 16 seconds long, but flippin' hilarious. And I mean, I've watched that thing probably 30 times and I still laugh out loud at it every time. It's worth it. I'll post that over on our Facebook page. Head over to Facebook, type up there in the search bar, Trampled Underfoot Podcast. That's us.
All right. Jim, we posted that link so you can go check that out. I think it's very interesting. The whole story of Marcus Aurelius and the connection with that philosophy. So I'll leave that there for you guys. You can check out all the stuff that we talk about. Sometimes we got key pictures or videos or audio, and we'll post them over there. So you could check us out at Trampled Underfoot Podcast on Facebook as well. So we want to thank you guys for hanging out, and we're out of here. We'll catch you next time. That's Tuesdays, every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, right here on YouTube. And in the mornings, we bust out with an exciting episode each Tuesday morning as well, which is around 6:30 Eastern time and 9:30 on the West Coast.
The other way around, 3:30 on the West Coast.
3:30. I'm sorry, 3:30
cool.
on the West Coast. So check it out. We'll catch you next time.
Peace. I'll shorten up that gap. Yes, Frankie, we're going to stay on after. Just totally apropos of nothing. You have the controls. I found today, a buddy of mine posted on Facebook, I found today the coolest t-shirt I have ever seen in my life. And I'm going to screen share it.
Okay.
So you have the controls. You can share this. And the folks over here on YouTube can see it. And now, check out that shirt. Is that the coolest shirt you've ever seen in your life or what?
Yeah, it's trippy as heck.
Yeah, I think that's cool as heck. I want that shirt.
It's disturbing, isn't it?
It's disturbing as heck, man, but it's cool. And I don't wear long sleeve shirts. I got to get that. Mainly because I have a very similar pattern to this that I give away for free on my website. So I think it just kind of fits me.
You know what?
It's just cool.
I'm thinking to myself, today you have outdone yourself because all that other stuff but right now you've just solved the, hey honey, I'm too fat to go out to dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Put one of those shirts on and you've lost about 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, that's why I posted it on my Facebook timeline, and I said the body in this t-shirt may be larger than it appears. that disclaimer from the rearview mirror we got now. Linda says, yes, you're getting it. I told her I wanted it for my birthday.
Very trippy.
Oh man, I thought that was cool as hell. Yeah, Steve kicks in and he says, I could make a shirt like that. Well, you probably can, Steve, but just fair warning, they're being sold on this website. They're like $12. So I think it's cooler than heck. And I'm shocked that it's 2021. Why are we just now discovering this stuff? I mean, how come these optical illusions haven't been on t-shirts since the 60s? Could you imagine all the crap that went on in the 60s and early 70s, all the drugs and everything, people walking around in shirts like that? Folks would have been dropping on every block. Oh my God. You know,
my whole experience growing up reading books because of music, the 60s, all the musicians and all the things and I literally delved into it. Steve, I delved into it like I delve into genealogy, full steam ahead, just jump right in, empty pool of water, doing it. Let's go all in. Well, so I was all into studying, the bands, the music, listening to how they play the songs. And so I was looking at the 60s like, man, freaking awesome. And these people and all this. One day I asked my dad years and years and years and years and years ago, hey Dad, do you remember, what did you see hippies around here? And he's walking by and he says, oh yeah, I remember those dirty people sitting over there on the lawn over in downtown. And he kept walking. And it was such a quick little burst of words with such disregard of something that I was so invested in that it made me, it's good that he did that, but at the same time I'm like, what?
It was a reality check, yeah.
But it was a reality check. He said, yeah, those people, yeah. He kept going.
Yeah. They were marginalized at the time. Hippies were just people who didn't take a bath. They were always dirty, and they didn't have any ambition in life. They just you're talking about the Taoism, be like the river, go with the flow, don't even try. That's the way they were seen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the scene that they wanted. So, hey, fine, whatever. Then, they took over one district of San Francisco in the Bay Area anyway. And, it's like, okay, fine. We can keep an eye on you guys from back here.
I visited Haight in Ashbury.
Haight-Ashbury, yeah.
I visited it.
It became a tourist attraction. It really
but
did.
there was nothing. Like, we went by a couple of times. And I was like, well, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Oh, okay.
Oh, it was so much more in the 60s, believe me. I mean, it was an extremely busy area. And it's like a 4-block area, 4 blocks deep, 4 blocks wide.
It's got those old Victorian little double. Yeah. I mean, it looks like little British houses in a way.
Yeah, it was all painted up and bright gaudy colors and paintings in windows and stuff like that, and people out in tie-dye and the bell bottom and the peasant blouses and the patchouli oil and all that other kind of crap. So it was your dad was partially right, partially wrong, but it was a reality check. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, he didn't have any. I mean, he grew up more like Elvis music and pre Elvis, like that. So he was 1942. I think Elvis was born in 1938.
Something like that. Yeah, he was born in 42. You said.
My dad.
So he was right around the same age. He was 2 years older than my dad. So, yeah, growing up in the 50s and coming of age in the early 60s. So he would have been, your dad would have turned 18 in 1960 then.
Well, he was 18. I think he was 18 in 62. He turned 18 in 62. And I know that because that's when he left for Miami.
So then he was born in 44.
No, he was born in 40. Oh, 44, is it? Let me see.
Because if he turned 18 in 62.
Yeah, I think he turned 18. No, I'm sure he turned it. Hold on. No, I've got him at 44. Let me do the math on that.
Yeah, 44 is right. That's the same year my dad was born. 44. So your dad and my dad were the same age.
I'm not sure about that. Give me a second. Because either the what do you call it when you go from one place to the other, that document?
Your immigration status, yeah.
The visa or whatever it is. Yeah. Let me look.
Now Dan pops in and says, "Hey, that's me. Yeah, we were talking about you." None of it bad. Don't worry about it.
Actually, let me just look at his birth certificate. Because now I'm curious, because the math, because that changes how old he was when he came here. So the birth certificate.
Because I thought you had said he was born in 1942, which would make him 2 years older than my dad.
And that's what I think. That's what I'm going to try to correct right now, because I wouldn't know that. Okay. 1942.
Yeah. Okay. So he turned 18 in 1960.
Yeah, but it screws up his coming out of Cuba timeline, because I thought it was 18. I thought he left when he was 18. This changes. This is actually, I never did that calculation. I never figured. I saw the date of him arriving. His passage here via plane. It's like a 40-minute airplane flight. And so I saw that and the age and stuff, and okay, 18. And I never questioned it in comparison to the 1942. He was born in 42. That's what his birth certificate says. With all the, like, it's an original. But now what I'm going to do is, because he came here in 1962, and that's documented. So I'm going to minus 1942.
If he came here in 62, he was 20 when he came here.
So then my dad was 20 years old when he. So I thought I'm gonna have to change some of my things. I never did that. No, this is good. I never did that for my dad because I it was a given. He always said, and everybody always said, and the documents. I came here when I was 18. No, he came here at 20. Okay, all right. All right, that was thank you.
So okay. Well, my whole point in all of that was he is of right around the same age my dad was. So it was, the new rock and roll and just getting into it. If he was listening to that style of music. Now you said he was listening to Elvis. Well, so was my dad. And that's what they were coming up with. And then the Beatles came along and they thought that was great, and the British invasion and all that other good stuff. So, but yeah.
I came in with long hair, or I grew long hair, and he was not. I had a poster. And so, in your house, in your room, it's typical to add posters and stuff. I had posters climbing up the wall, up on the roof. I had posters on the roof. I had girls on motorcycles and bikinis, and I drew my own Jim Morrison poster. With poster, I went and bought a poster board and I hung it on the outside like a state. I'm involved in learning and exploring and enjoying the rock and roll and then I just let my hair grow. My dad did not. He was not happy and his insult, to give him credit, was, "You look like a horse," and he'd walk away. So to his credit, that was his insult. And by the way, even though it's shocking of an insult, it's still, I'm like, what? A horse? Excuse me? But it's not a bad insult. It's within reason, right?
Yeah. It could have been worse. Could have been worse. Because I remember the insults of the day. Oh, you want long hair? You want high heels and a purse too?
Oh,
that kind of thing. So because that was seen when you're 7 years old. That's a slap upside the head. A verbal, slap. And it's like, whoa. So, but, my mother, because it was of that time. I had a flat top until I was 5 or 6. And then it grew out. And then my mother started parting my hair, on the right side and combing it over and slicking it back. And that was back when Brill cream was in. And I know some of you guys out here in the chat remember Brill cream, or just, what was it called? I can't remember the name. Dippity Doo, hair balm, it was like a hair gel. And there was pink and there was blue, and the blue was for boys. Pink was for girls. Put a little bit, you rub that into your hair. And it was just
rock solid.
Well, it became that after a while. But imagine taking like a cube of butter and gushing it up in your hands and slicking it in your hair. So it was greasy and oily and nasty and yuck. And you comb it over, and you had to see those lines from the comb. You used the wide teeth on the comb. You had to see those lines, comb it back and everything was good. And I was that way until I was 10, 11. And then my mother finally convinced my father to let my hair grow out. And I had the longer, almost a beetle cut, but not quite a beetle cut.
That's freaking cool. I mean, look, man, it's a tough sell for people from the previous generation. But I'm sorry, and this is where my bias is going to come in, but I think I have a good no matter how good your reasoning is with whatever you're biased on, it's never going to be good enough for other people, whether you think you're right, whether you are right, or whatever the case. That's another lesson, for myself. There's no way, because you could be right. Hey, Johnny, don't stick that fork in your eye socket. It doesn't matter how good of an idea it is, not to do that. There's going to be a Johnny out there that's going to say, "That's it. I don't listen to you." Yeah. So, and that applies to everything.
Oh, sure.
But I'm sorry, I'm biased. There's no way that the people that came prior to the rock and roll or psychedelic rock and roll revolution, you can compare their upsetness and validate it on the basis of that's junk music when there's so much richness musically and lyrically and everything, and then juxtapose that to stuff happening within our recent timelines with hey baby baby baby, hey baby baby.
I mean,
What this is what I'll stop now, but I'm just gonna say that there's, to me, and see, this is where my bias comes in, there's no lyrical. I'm not gonna sit there on the bed with my legs up on my belly reading the CD cover and reading ooh baby ooh 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 baby ooh ooh. Ain't gonna happen, and with a stupid cover and this and that. Whereas the stuff from in the past, you had and the sonic explosions and the clouds, and then they have this whole deep, and the music is, and now it's like well, I'm sorry. I put my foot down on that one.
And this argument has gone on for centuries. I mean, when you think about it, the switch from ragtime to jazz.
Loved it.
That started the argument. The ragtime folks were saying, "Oh, you don't need all these instruments. You can do this with a guitar and drums and a wash tub." Then jazz went into swing, and the jazz people were going, "You don't need all these instruments. What do you got a whole orchestra for? And look at your dancing. It's crap."
No. But wait a second.
The rock and roll, and the swing people were going, "Look at this crap. No, you're doing it wrong." And that lyric ability and this, that, and the other.
The blues respected the rock and roll, and the rock and roll respected the blues, and the jazz respected the rock and roll and the blues. Within them, there might be those qualms, but in reality, Go ahead.
At first, not as much as you think. Because when rock and roll came about, it was seen as white folks taking our music. There was not a level of respect there. That developed and came later. It was, and believe me, we think racial tensions are high now. And I know I'm on a touchy subject. Racial tensions were tremendous back then.
But let me reiterate, or let me just hop over next lane.
But what I was getting at was that respect developed over the years. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. On that specific thing, I'm totally, but let me jump the lane over to get away from that association on that basis of the respecting. I'm talking about the value musically that you can document from a blues song or a jazz song or let's go bossa nova. There are things in there that are valid, and the of today, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
I think I can encapsulate it in one sentence. Let me see if you agree with me here. Okay. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, men sang to women and women sang to men. You know, they would sing. There are exceptions. They would sing in the third person. But nowadays, men sing about women and women sing about men. It's not that direct. I will always love you. You know, it kind of took it's less personal. Am I wrong there? It just seems to me that it's more singing about a person than it is singing to a person.
I think that in the category of music that we're thinking of, and the masses always have sort of gone, but we're at a crescendo here of, I think you're right. It's not personable. It's a distant, cold
Mm-hmm.
thing. And even metal, even heavy metal, and I understand people can say, well, it's constant noise. I get it. So on that note of how heavy they're doing in this, I get it. But even in that, there's intelligent storytelling in that music. Like they actually sat down and let's write about this, and there's actual there's work involved doing it. So it might not be your cup of tea, get
Right.
that, but it has these things, and but now even on the musical side, I'm sorry, uncha 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 uncha,
Yeah.
ooh baby, no,
Yeah. It's yeah, I'm with you. But it's the evolution of rock and roll. It's
no,
the
no.
evolution of music. It is the
Okay,
evolution of music. I mean,
evolution.
well, I mean,
Evolution.
well, what do you think remember the group Devo? What do you think Devo was short for? De-evolution.
See, even
Because they saw the disco era. See, we got off on music, and this would be a good podcast. Even the disco era was seen as a de-evolution of rock music or popular music at the time.
and disco had some great. So even though you don't like the disco, but forgive you me, that in comparison, if you put disco next to the uncha uncha uncha, yes, I understand there's beat situation, but that was pretty soulless. This stuff is void of humanity, dude.
The only thing they have done is they have turned up the bass on the techno that you're talking about now. They've
But
turned
not
up
only
the
that,
bass. If you look at the beat, the rhythm, everything is the same.
yeah, but there's a lack of human. Okay, so even the disco, there's I was gonna say Dancing Queen. Pick whatever song. At least there's some sort of little thematic thing. But now it's all, and there's a level of like just
Yeah.
lack of humanity in its sentiment.
Right. It's cold. It's taken away. It's you've taken away the personality from it. You've made it more distant. It's about the person. It's not to the person. And I think we've lost half of our crowd, but that's true. And yeah, Jim Dockrell is absolutely right. Pomade. That was the one that I couldn't think of. And the number one, there was Dippity Doo, and then there was Brill Cream. Brill Cream, a little dabble do ya.
So last thing, we'll just say Frankie says all new music sucks. He says, not just older people saying it. Even younger people are starting to see it turning to older stuff. So,
Yes,
so,
that's true.
so I just want. So what Frankie said. I know I'm saying this, but I'm reluctant to go with the. There's a lot of people that are dipping their hand in the source and drawing out from the waters of the past and creating new things, but with meaning. And there are people you can search out. There are people doing this, but the media seems to, it appears, I don't know if it's a fact, to always propagate
Sure.
a soulless,
Yeah.
dead thing that has a speaker with little prongs stuck to it and vibration, and it's so soulless, and it's fake. It's and it's vanity, and it's lipstick, and it's whips, and there's nothing wrong with lipstick and whips, but that's not the point. The point is on their own. The point is that where's the soul, man?
Yeah, and what you've got two things in play there. You've got two things at play. You have a media that is hyping that for sales because they think that that's what people now want to hear. And then you have a public that's taking that and they're saying, this is what we're supposed to be listening to. If it's being pushed out now, that must be the new style. But it takes somebody, and you're seeing it all over the social media. You're seeing it all over YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. You're seeing kids 12, 13, 14 listening to Kiss, listening to AC/DC, listening to, pick a group. I mean, you've got folks who have never really paid attention to the Grateful Dead now listening to them. And I, for one, am real happy to see that. I mean, you've got 15 and 16-year-olds who are absolutely in love with Pink Floyd and The Who. So that message is getting out, and their friends are hearing it too. And they're going, man, there's some good stuff back then.
Yeah.
You can't put something like Flirting with Disaster by Molly Hatchet. I don't care how old you are. You cannot put that song on in your car and not feel your foot hitting that gas pedal just a little bit harder. That's a dangerous song for me. Flirting with Disaster, I will get a ticket. So, but they're hearing that and they're picking it up. And they're seeing that maybe, just maybe, these old boomers might know a little bit of something.
I mean, thankfully, they can find it on YouTube, and people have always been curious about the vintage stuff, because there's record stores. I mean, they've gone out of
Vogue,
business.
Yeah.
There's one left called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow's, I think it's called, and it's still around, and it has all the old stuff. But it's one, and so the popular thing is all the crap that we're.
Yeah.
But there are a contingency of people that are always looking for that special record, that special, and they'll go back, and that's a saving grace in this whole thing. But the majority of the people are like,
you want my honest opinion? I think the saving grace is guys like, AC/DC got back together and they put out a new album,
and it's a good album,
and they put it out on vinyl as well.
And they've got some. Oh, okay, and they've got some great tracks on it.
And there are other artists who are putting out vinyl. The record companies have figured out that there's enough of a listenership out there who want vinyl. There is a market for vinyl, so they're starting to put it out. My problem is all of the old stuff that has disappeared, because there are a lot of things that are out of print. Pick a band, any band. There are albums that they made years ago that are out of print that will not come back. And about all you can get is greatest hits or their most popular albums. There are exceptions. But if you're into a group like, say, the Lovin' Spoonful, you're going to basically find the greatest hits or the best of. You're not going to find those old individual albums.
Great band.
You're basically relying on people selling their old record collections or the record collections of their parents to find this old out of print music. And I hope a lot of that comes back. I really do. There is a market for it. People are hungry for it, and they want to hear it. They don't want to just hear the top 15 songs this band put out. They want to hear all 15 albums this band put out.
The Turtles, Battle of the Bands, I think the album is called. Badass album.
Oh, yeah, there are a bunch of them out there. And I'm sorry, Steve, we turned it into music. But that's okay. He got a nap. We should go ahead and land the plane. It's been an hour 43.
All right. So, see, music does bring all things together. Except for sleep. Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and call this one good. Thanks for hanging out with us, y'all. Few bands are 100% inspired by classic rock, but mainstream isn't wanting part of it. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, Frankie. But as Jim said just above you, there are some good musicians out there, and they are finding their voice in social media. And it's so easy to start a YouTube channel and start putting your stuff out there that if you're any good, you will be discovered, you will be listened to, and you will be heard. So, yeah, Steve just is snoring in the chat.
Last thing, I want one more thing in reference to all this. I don't want to, but I have to. I hate it when I'm on YouTube and I click on any number of these like fail video compilations and stuff, or airplane landings or volleyball, whatever the heck. And they pump, and the track that they drop onto it is one of those. Every clip, and you're watching, and I can't get through it. I'm like, man, that would be so good if they just let it be. But
I hit the mute button. I hit the mute button.
But so it happens to you too, right?
Oh yeah, it's just like, man, this would be great without music.
I mean, because it's like, what the heck is going on here, dude?
Yeah.
It's like, and then you're trying. Like, well, come on,
That's
ruined.
When I use any music in any of my videos, I put something that a little bit country-ish on.
So it can be nice and relaxed.
Well, not necessarily mellow or relaxing, but it's kind of, and it might have a quick beat to it. But it's mainly acoustic guitars and stuff. There might be some electric in there, but it's not hard rock. It's not heavy metal. It's not techno or the new stuff. It's something that everybody can get into. And I've only had one complaint about music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, only one complaint about music. So I just don't use it very often. I just don't do that type of video normally. But, well, anyway.
Laters.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it. Catch you next week.